So there I was, hosting my daughter's birthday party at the local park. Everything was going smoothly until my neighbor, Mrs. Thompson, sashayed over with her son, Billy. My daughter had invited him, not realizing his mom was a walking entitlement parade. Halfway through the party, Mrs. Thompson demanded we sing happy birthday to Billy as well, insisting he deserved his spotlight moment. When I politely declined, explaining how birthdays work, she threw a fit, calling me inconsiderate. Right when I thought she couldn't be more delusional, she suggests we all chip in for a second cake. Spoiler, we didn't. Mrs. Thompson stormed off, dragging a confused Billy behind her.
It all started at our neighborhood holiday party. Mrs. Ellis, my friend Sarah's mom, suddenly announced that it was unfair for Santa to bring my siblings and me more gifts because we already had enough. She demanded that our parents tell Santa to bring all our presents to Sarah's house instead. My parents were stunned but politely declined. Mrs. Ellis then accused them of wanting to see her daughter's face, saddened by greed, and stormed out. The next morning, Sarah awkwardly apologized for her mom's behavior at school. Apparently, Mrs. Ellis called the school to rally support for her cause. Thankfully, nobody backed her up. My parents explained to me that sometimes people like Mrs. Ellis let jealousy cloud their judgment.
When I announced my honeymoon plans to a tropical paradise, my neighbor, a mom of 3, raised an eyebrow. "You don't have kids. Why not give your spot to someone who deserves a break?" she suggested. Initially thinking it was a joke, I laughed it off. But she wasn't kidding. The next day, she showed up with her children, trying to guilt-trip me about how they've never been on a vacation. She even offered to keep the resort booking in their names, as if my trip was a community property. My partner stepped in, firmly explaining our plans were non-negotiable. The tantrum that ensued was epic, with her declaring I was selfish. Despite the unexpected drama, my partner and I enjoyed our trip. Upon returning, I noticed they had left a note on our door, suggesting a donation for the kids' future fun.
I was celebrating my 16th birthday with friends and family when my dad's coworker and her son showed up uninvited. The kid, about 10, immediately started eyeing the gifts, but I tried to ignore it. During cake, his mom, whom I'd just met, approached me. "Why don't you let Timmy open the gifts? It'll make his day, and you can share, right?" I laughed, assuming it was a joke, but she persisted. My mom stepped in, suggesting they enjoy the party or leave. Well, the woman threw a fit, yelling about how I wasn't being inclusive. They stormed out, but not before stuffing some party favors into her purse. Later, I learned she complained to Dad's boss about my family's rudeness.
In the small town of Eldridge Hollow, we were all familiar with the eerie stories surrounding the old Sinclair Manor. However, I never believed in the tales until I took a late-night walk through the woods bordering the notorious estate. My name is Jack, and I worked as a part-time janitor at the local high school, living a quiet life with little to no interest in the supernatural. Yet, my curiosity got the better of me that fateful evening. I had heard from locals about a woman known only as the Midnight Mother, who was said to haunt the grounds, demanding impossible things from anyone who crossed her path. They claimed she was once a domineering woman who controlled every aspect of her children's lives, her spirit now unable to find peace. As I walked through the forest, I stumbled upon an unusual sight, a dilapidated stroller, half buried under fallen leaves and twigs. The atmosphere suddenly changed, and I felt a cold chill slither down my spine. Then her voice echoed, "You there! Help me find my children!" Startled, I turned to see her, a ghostly figure with wild eyes and tangled hair, dressed in a moth-eaten gown. Her presence was unnerving, her demands even more absurd. "You must bring them to me," she insisted, her tone a mix of desperation and command. I explained that there were no children around, hoping to calm her. "Nonsense," she screeched, her voice laced with a spectral echo that made the forest shudder. The first escalation came when she demanded I provide her with a list of items she claimed her children needed. Silk blankets, golden rattles, and a crib carved from the heartwood of the ancient oak. Ridiculous as it was, she seemed adamant, her silhouette flickering with wild intensity. Out of nowhere, the ground trembled slightly, and the shadows behind her deepened, morphing into ghastly shapes with sneering faces. Each shadow whispered in sinister harmony, "Fulfill the mother's wishes." The climax hit when I resolutely said, "I can't do that." Her face twisted in a nightmarish rage, her voice now a chilling wail. The forest around us seemed to close in, branches like skeletal fingers reaching for me. Suddenly a gust of wind swept through, carrying her figure away, her final words echoing, "My children, bring them back." As dawn crept over the horizon, I found myself alone, the woods silent once more. I hurried back to town, not daring to look back. Though the forest returned to its usual tranquility, a lingering fear remained. I realized that the Midnight Mother wasn't merely a legend, but a reminder of what unchecked entitlement could become, lasting far beyond one's lifetime. So tell me, have you ever encountered a presence demanding the impossible?
Growing up, I always shared a close bond with my cousin Jake. Our birthdays were just a week apart, so joint celebrations became a cherished tradition. Our parents saw it as a perfect way to strengthen family ties, bringing everyone together for one grand party. But this year, my Aunt Rebecca had different plans. Aunt Rebecca, Jake's mom, always had a flair for the dramatic. She was the kind of person who could throw a fit over a misplaced spoon. It was an open secret that Aunt Rebecca favored Jake, to the extent that even minor inconveniences in his life were treated as monumental crises. So when I learned that Aunt Rebecca was organizing this year's party, I knew to brace myself. The inciting incident unfolded when Aunt Rebecca declared that the party theme would be Jake's Big Day, which was odd since it was meant to celebrate both our birthdays. I found out through the party invitations, a jungle-themed extravaganza prominently featuring Jake's favorite animal, the lion. My name was included, but in smaller print, almost an afterthought to Jake's festivities. Feeling slighted, I confronted my parents. They were sympathetic, but insisted I keep the peace. Unwilling to let Rebecca's antics spoil my mood, I reluctantly went along with it. However, things escalated quickly. First, the cake arrived, an elaborate multi-tiered masterpiece with a giant edible lion perched atop. "Happy birthday, Jake," was emblazoned across the cake, while my name was nowhere to be found. When I asked Aunt Rebecca about it, she waved me off saying, "Oh, don't worry, honey, there's a little cupcake with your name on it." During the party, the favoritism was undeniable. As I watched from the sidelines, Jake opened his multitude of presents, while Aunt Rebecca's voice boomed through the microphone, narrating each gift with enthusiasm. None of my gifts were acknowledged beyond a shrug. Feeling increasingly invisible, my patience reached its limit when Aunt Rebecca announced an impromptu speech. That's when I decided to act. As she waxed poetic about Jake's wonderful attributes, I quietly slipped away and returned with my backup plan, an inflatable dinosaur costume I'd secretly stashed in my room. I donned it without hesitation and boldly paraded back into the party. Laughter erupted, cutting through Aunt Rebecca's monologue as the kids joined in on the fun. The attendees' attention quickly shifted from Rebecca's relentless praise to an impromptu dinosaur dance-off. Even Jake, who was initially dumbfounded, joined in. Aunt Rebecca was furious, red-faced with indignation, but the guests were enthralled. The party's mood transformed from strained to jubilant as children swarmed to the unexpected spectacle, and even the adults found themselves chuckling. The resolution was seismic. Aunt Rebecca stormed off, leaving the rest of us to salvage the party into something memorable and fun for everyone. My parents finally stepped in, easing the tension with assurances that next year we'd have a more balanced approach. Looking back, I'm glad I stood my ground, even if it was in dinosaur form. My impromptu act saved the party, turning what could have been an overwhelmingly one-sided event into a celebration that honored both Jake and me. What would you have done if you found yourself in a similar situation?
Meet our protagonist, Jim, a 32-year-old man who loves nothing more than enjoying his Saturday afternoons lounging on a park bench with his favorite book. Jim also has a weakness for the local park's ice cream cart. It's a pleasant, predictable ritual. Find a bench, get a cone, and lose himself in the pages of his latest fantasy novel.
Enter the entitled parents, Rachel and Tom, who have recently graced the neighborhood. They're the type who waltz into places as if the world owes them a red carpet. Though Jim had only seen them in passing, today would be different. The afternoon began like any other. Jim settled into his usual spot, ice cream in hand, when suddenly the air was pierced by the shrill demand of Rachel's voice. "Excuse me, that's our bench." Jim blinked, assuming she must be speaking to someone else. But no, Rachel was pointing directly at him, her oversized sun hat bobbing with indignation. Taken aback, Jim politely replied, "I don't see any names on it." "It's where our son likes to sit," Tom chimed in, as if their toddler had staked a claim like a miniature conquistador. Little Timmy, oblivious to the unfolding drama, was more interested in feeding ducks nearby. Jim tried to reason with them. "I'm happy to move when I'm done, or you can sit next to me. It's a public bench after all." Rachel huffed. "That's not good enough. You're ruining our family day." Jim attempted to return to his book, but Rachel and Tom stood their ground. Rachel, sensing she was losing this battle of public opinion, resorted to the ultimate entitled weapon, a loud, theatrical sigh followed by, "Can't you see we have a child?" As if on cue, Timmy toddled over, clutching Jim's empty ice cream napkin. "Want more?" He pointed at the cart, seemingly oblivious to the drama. "Oh, I'm sorry, Timmy," Jim said, his voice dripping with exaggerated sorrow. "I was just about to get another myself. Would you like to come along?" This was the turning point. With a chorus of parental protests behind him, Jim put on his best ice cream buddy smile and walked Timmy to the cart. Rachel and Tom, unable to be publicly monstrous to a stranger sharing ice cream with their child, had no choice but to retreat, grumbling plans to write a scathing Facebook post. Returning with Timmy, who was happily munching on a vanilla cone, Jim swapped the bench for another spot nearby, where he watched the family from a safe distance. His book forgotten, he marinated in the grim satisfaction of having bested the entitled duo. Reflecting on the day, Jim chuckled at how a single bench could spark such uproar. Perhaps a chill Saturday wasn't so boring after all.
Every Saturday, our neighborhood gathered at the local park to watch the kids' soccer games. It was a light-hearted affair meant for fun and learning, not for professional sportsmanship. My son Ben played forward for the Green Strikers, and he was more enthusiastic than skilled, but that was never the point. For weeks, we noticed a new family. They sat on the sidelines with an air of superiority as their son Timmy played for the Blue Tornadoes. His parents, particularly his mother, had a curious habit of micromanaging every single move, not just of their son, but of everyone else's kids too. They would yell out instructions, groan at perceived mistakes, and clap only for their son's achievements. The incident that would engrave this particular Saturday in everyone's memory began with an innocuous foul. Timmy had tripped over his own feet after trying an exaggerated spin move. The referee, a kind-hearted volunteer dad, blew the whistle, awarding a free kick to the Strikers. None of us expected what happened next. Timmy's mother stormed onto the field, hands flailing. "This is outrageous," she screamed. "That was clearly a foul on the Green Strikers. Repeat the play." The referee shrugged it off, trying to maintain order. "Ma'am, it's just a game. Let the kids play." She wouldn't have it. Not long after, Timmy's father joined in, demanding an apology and a redo of the entire game. Other parents started to murmur, some agreeing just to quiet the commotion, others rolling their eyes at the spectacle. Just as the debate was about to fizzle out, the entitled parents took it a step further. "If my son doesn't get the ball right now and score, we're pulling him out of this league and telling all of our friends to avoid these unsportsmanlike games," shouted Timmy's dad. The kids, meanwhile, had gathered around, confused and watching the adults ruin what was supposed to be their fun day. In a surprising move, little Timmy himself interjected, "Mom, Dad, it's okay. I just tripped. Can we play now?" The standoff reached its climax as the other parents started clapping, not out of sarcasm but support for Timmy's brave and mature declaration. The realization of their misplaced aggression finally dawned on the entitled parents. Looking embarrassed, they retreated to their gazebo. The match resumed, and Timmy scored a goal later on, fair and square. He ran to the sidelines, not to his parents, but to the referee, saying, "Thanks for letting us just play." Reflecting on the day, I was reassured by the resilience of kids who reminded us what sportsmanship meant. Lessons come from the most unexpected places, and sometimes it takes a child to teach adults a thing or two. Have you ever witnessed a public meltdown where the adults were more childish than the kids?